Yes, it's Nelly Toha, and welcome back to another Flutter tutorial. Yeah, I guess in the previous tutorial you've actually tried to cover up a concept of that programming language, all programming fundamentals actually. Yeah, all basics, all initial syntax. Yeah, so in this tutorial we're actually going to open up our first application so that we can actually get into creating the application, then displaying the application, and actually doing some coding. Okay, and maybe dealing with a few widgets. Yeah, for now. So in case you missed how to create an application initially, so you have to go to your VS Code and press Command Shift P. That is for Mac users. If you're using Windows, you have to press Control Shift P. Yeah, Control Shift P. Sorry, I had to select. For Mac, you're using Command Shift P. Then for Windows, you're using for Windows, you're using Control Shift P. Yeah. Then this window comes up here. Then you choose Flutter, new project. Then you choose application. Then it will prompt us to allocate where we want to save the application. Yeah. So I have a folder here for Flutter Dev application, Android applications, or I'll just save it under Flutter lesson test apps. So here I'll create another folder and I'll name it test class. Test class app. Okay, so within test class app, that's where I want to put my project. Then they'll prompt me to put a project name. That is the name of your application. So I'll call it still maybe class app in small caps. Then I hit enter. So it will provide me with the code here using Flutter create. You can actually run Flutter create in your terminal according to your parent directory where you want your application to be saved. So it will create you automatically all the code you actually need. Yeah. So it's giving me the first initial files that I really need to run for my app. And I don't think I need these pop-ups. I'll just go ahead and delete them. Okay, so they're telling me your project is ready. Press F5 to run. So F5 is responsible for running the debug feature, or actually you can get the debug feature here. So within your VS Code, on this panel, you can go to run debug, then you run and debug. Yeah. Otherwise, you can press F5 directly on your machine so that you can actually run the debug function or feature. Yeah. So apparently this is my app and it is stored under a folder called class app. Sorry, it's stored under the other folder we created for test class app. Then this is the application for class app. So it has different files just as you see here. So we have the Android, we have the iOS, we have the lib, Linux in case, Mac OS, test web, Windows. Yeah. So as I said, with Flutter, we can actually create an Android application, iOS, then we can go ahead and create Linux applications. Then we can also create for Mac OS, yeah, softwares. Then we can also create web applications and Windows applications at the same time using one single code base, as I really explained last time. Yeah. So this is our initial code that is actually displayed. Yeah, I'll try to explain each and every maybe class created here, but I think let us do that with our own code apparently. Yeah, or Otherwise, when you try to run this demo application, what actually comes? So I'll try to minimize. I'll try to minimize this. Then let me try to run this. Let me try to run a debug. Run and debug. So let us try to run that. While it's running, I'll try to explain a little bit. So in the previous video, I tried to explain what a void function means. So a void function returns nothing, yeah, but can execute what's within its code blocks, yeah. So we don't need a return under a void function. And initially, for Flutter application that you're running, it needs a main function. So it's a main function that calls for the run app widget that is going to be responsible to calling your first widget according to the class you have created for your respective widget here. So and we have a class myApp that extends a stateless widget. Yeah, we're going to look at stateless widget, and we're going to be looking at also a stateful widget. Last time when I was explaining, I went ahead and explained a bit about where did I have it? Okay. Okay. We had we talked about the main widgets on a page. We talked about a stateless, and we talked about a stateful. And I said a stateless widget is a widget that actually requires or that avails you with a static content or constant content or constant widgets, yeah, on its page. Then a stateful widget can actually accept content that it's coming from a stateless widget. Let's say can accept constant widgets or constant content, or can actually accept dynamic or altering content or widgets, apparently. Yeah, so our app is actually running here. We shall go back to that. Then I think while we move on, we shall try to explain more of what a stateful widget is more, why a stateful widget is actually more important than a stateless widget. Yeah. Okay, so initially, this is how our application is looking like. So it has a title within the app bar. So it runs a main function that calls myApp widget class, which is here. Then here they are telling us that this widget is the root of your application, okay, which is my app. Then it calls the build method that calls for a material app. Then it has a title Flutter demo. We're not seeing this one here because within a material app we're having let's see, we're having a home, yeah. So it's calling for a home page initially for the material app, which is having this title here, yeah. Okay, I guess instead of actually reading all this, let us try to create our own page so that we actually get to the bottom of this, yeah. So I'll try to delete the entire class or widgets for this. So initially we have an error here because with run app widget has to call has actually to assign another widget which is having a class, whether it is a stateless or a stateful widget. So, and initially we had a myApp, so to rectify that we shall actually call for a stateless widget. You can actually call a stateless widget with that short form stls, then hit enter. Then we shall provide its class myApp, and this is not a constant, yeah. You can under run myApp, under run app, you can actually call for any widget you want. Let's say in case here I have a series of classes, a series of class. Maybe I have another stateless widget and I call it maybe home, right? So I can I can define home here, and it's okay. So apparently this means that when I'm running initially my application, it will actually start from run app, and this run app is going to call a functional widget, right? It's going to call for a widget that is going to return something to the screen, right? So initially it will start from calling the stateless widget, which I created down here for home. Yeah, and to highlight more about a stateless widget, it creates a class for that respective name of the widget, then it extends a stateless widget which has still another widget within that very class. And where you're seeing super.key, this is null safety actually in this apparently this SDK we're having, yeah, the current SDK. So all our code is protected with null safety. Yeah, wherever you're seeing key and question mark or exclamation mark usually, so it is responsible for keeping null safety, yeah, under your code. Then for a stateful widget, we shall see there is a bit of difference, but in case we try to create a stateful widget, it has a bit of quite many lines, yeah. So we shall actually also maybe explain that when we actually reach to it. All right. So initially, this is what we need, and I'll replace this with my app class widget, just like that. So with this, we are good to go. And I said initially when we are actually starting off with our application, we need a material app. So this widget for the my app, we want it to first call a material app. Then within a material app, we shall call for a home. And within our home, we can assign another widget, right? And I said we can always assign a scaffold widget. Okay, maybe to illustrate this more, in case I don't have a scaffold widget, what happens? So initially, before putting a scaffold, as I explained here last time, that we have the main widgets. We have the material app that calls a scaffold, and the scaffold can call in the body. But in case you don't have a scaffold, we have a black background of your application. Actually, you can try to put in anything, which is okay, but later on you're going to be having a black background. Let's say if we start with giving it a widget, let's say a widget text. Let's say we name it first app application, and I save. So we shall have first application, and we're saying we're having a double line on it and yellowish. It's already taking in the color red. We have not actually given it color. Sorry, we're not assigned it color, and its background is still black. So that's what a material app does. So why we need a scaffold is because we need that white spacing so that we can actually give a body to it and assign more widgets to it. Meanwhile, also for a material app, actually you can put more because it is under material.dat, and I didn't explain this line. I think for each and every widget we're going to be using, they are going to be respective of material.dat. Yeah, so Flutter uses material.dat, which has material design. Yeah, so each and every widget that we are going to be dealing with, they actually, most of them require material design or material.dat. So initially, when you're starting off your code, you need to start with importing material.dat, then you can actually proceed. Because when I try to comment this down, we are seeing that the stateless widget that we created, it's actually under a material design. So it requires a material design, and even run app widget uses a material design. Also, where you're seeing for the build method, it also uses a material design or material that. So initially, you always have to import that so that you don't have errors. So when I remove that, that is okay. Yeah. And in other words, something else I'm actually highlighting about, in case you want to fix your code, usually you can always use the quick fix. Whenever you're having lines or warnings on your code, you put the cursor where accordingly, then you tap here and you have a quick fix. So here they're telling us to put a constant. You can assign a constant in case you want, or we have a quick fix, another one, and another constant for the home, sorry, for the material up. It's making it a constant, but it's not good to make constants everywhere, because usually when you have changing content, you'll have you have errors. But in case maybe you're having a constant widget, let's say a text, and it's not going to be changing over time, you can make it a constant. Yeah, but preferably you should get to know where you're assigning constants and where you shouldn't be assigning constants in your code. Yeah. Okay, so let us try to fix this. So we have a first application and having a stupid background for black, so we shall try to remove that. So instead of calling a direct widget like text as we did, let us call for a home, then we call for a scaffold. We can put an empty scaffold and we save. We can just save like that. When I save, we are seeing we're having a white background. So on this white background, we can write many widgets on it. Yeah, and it can actually accept many widgets on it. And we are following this criteria for a material app, the root. Then we're having a scaffold as a home. Material home calls a scaffold, then a scaffold calls a body, then body we can put in different containers, just like that. Having an example for an application. I had an application here. Okay, so just like this. So this is a scaffold that is having a background. You're seeing some designs in the background here. Then it has different widgets on it, right? So this is a sign up. Yeah, it's a sign up page where we're having a sign up text. Then we're having email text field. Then you're having a phone text field. Then you're having a password text field. Yeah. Then we're having a sign in button that executes to sign in the user in case whatever conditions you've put in here are met. Okay, so we shall actually see that, but this is just an example I want to relate on when we are actually maybe dealing with assigning or allocating or aligning widgets accordingly. Yeah, so let us go back to our code and maybe go back to our application just right here. Okay. And some other people actually were asking, in case you don't have an emulator, what happens? Yeah, in case you have a machine that is not actually allowing you to add an emulator to it, you can use your Android phone directly using a USB or using a wireless connection. But apparently, I recommend you using a USB for debugging methods in case you don't have quite an emulator that can be displayed on your screen, so that you can see the hot reload changes when you're debugging your application. So how can we do that? Yeah, I would like to hit on that as well. So what you do is that you need to install something called ADB. So I'll open up here. Then you have to look for ADB. Where can I get it? I'm going to provide it in the in the description of this video so that you can get a direct download link to it, or I'll provide it on our website so that people can actually get it from there. Yeah. So I'll say download ADB drivers. So according to your operating system, you will go to Universal ADB. Then you download the drivers, those that you need according to your operating system. So this is one size fits all Windows, blah 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 debug. Okay, so this is for Windows. In case you need that of Mac, you can actually also look for that of Mac, but I'm going to provide the link in the description of this video. So once you install the ADB drivers, you can actually install the universal ones. Yeah, even these MTK ADB drivers, universal ADB drivers actually work also. Yeah, after installing the ADB drivers on your machine, then what you need to do is you go to your phone. Okay, I'll illustrate using this as an example. Most of the stuff are really set up. Then you go to about phone, according to your phone, right? Then you have to press build number until it shows you that you press this number of times, then you become a developer. So sometimes they provide you with an entry to put a password. That password is the one for your device in case you set one, or a fingerprint to verify that you're a developer. Then once they make you a developer, you go back to your previous settings according to your phone apparently. Yeah, so for this emulator I get that developer options I need down here. So under system, then I get developer options. By default, these developer options actually not there in your system unless if you want a developer. So to make yourself a developer, you go to build number, then you tap those many times. Usually there are 4 or 5, yeah, I think. Then after having those yeah, I'm coming. So after having those privileges, then you come to develop options, then scroll down and look for USB debugging. So once this is activated, then you can actually use your USB to debug your application on your device. Yeah, so you can just activate that after installing ADB. Initially you install ADB, then after installing ADB, then you go to developer options, then you activate USB debugging. So after doing that, then you're good to go. Okay, and actually before running into this code initially, what we need to understand, because someone will ask, where is this code? Just like, is it like, is the main dot that you're going to open itself directly? Yes, initially when you create your first application, it's going to be open. But where do we get it? We get it from the lib folder. So we have a number of folders here, as I said: Android, build, iOS, blah blah blah. Fine, but under your lib folder, this is where we're going to be putting the files that we are going to be creating. In case you have more pages that you're going to create under the file extension .dat, then we need to assign them under the lib folder. Yeah, we need to assign them under the lib folder. Unlike maybe for other platforms, but for now for Flutter, we are going to be using the lib folder usually. You may ask that in case maybe I'm dealing with iOS, do I need to maybe save or create files or pages within the iOS folder? No, you don't need to, unless if you're using Swift or stuff. That's when we go into the runner and stuff. But apparently we're going to be using the lib folder to put or to add more pages or more files in that extension here. And something else we need to know here is we shall be changing the folder for Android accordingly. That is for build.gradle usually, in case we need to have restrictions on the minimum SDK and maximum SDK. Yeah, usually here. Sorry, this is no, for Android we have build.gradle. This usually here we change the according version according to your dependencies you put in your application. Then under app we have another build.gradle. where we change the minimum SDK, the target SDK, that is according to the current the current version of SDK you have installed. Yeah. And the compile SDK, apparently initially your application is using Flutter compile SDK, but we shall actually see how we can change this accordingly. Yeah, and we shall learn more about it. Yeah. Then something else we actually usually change or deal with here is the pubspec.yaml. So pubspec.yaml file is very important because it has the name of the application, class app, and description is just a new Flutter project, which is okay. Then we have the version. This is the very first version of your application. If you are intending to upgrade, make an upgrade of your application, in case you released one in the first place, you'll have to come to version, then you increment it to any numeric or numbering you want. In case I need +2, then I'll make it +2 version, right? Then I'll make it 1.0, 0.2, 1.0, 0.1 accordingly to what you want. Yeah. Then we're using environment SDK. This is the range where our SDK is assigned. I'm saying that this application should actually take in an SDK which is greater or equal to 3.1.2 and less than 4.00 apparently. Yeah. So that's the SDK we're using. In case I shift this code and I want to run it on a different machine and its compile SDK is quite very minimal to this, I'll have to change that of my application to meet the minimum requirements of that current SDK in that VS Code, or that VS Code stored on that current machine that you have transferred your code to. Yeah. Then the rest of these dependencies, we shall see how to add dependencies in Flutter that we shall be using, and we shall actually have a website where we are going to be getting all these dependencies. Just a hint, that website is called pub.dev. So this is where we get our dependencies or packages. In case you need Firebase, you'll get all these dependencies here. For all platforms, Android, iOS, Linux, macOS, web, and Windows. Yeah, we shall see that later. I'm just taking you through this quickly. Then below this, we have dependencies. We have Flutter. It has its SDK, fine. Cupertino icons. This is default. Dev dependencies. That's okay. Then something else important here is yeah. So I explained previously in a few minutes back that we were using what we call material design, and if I make it false, then I won't have privileges of using material design material.dat here. But by default it's true, so I'm entitled to using material design. Yeah, so then we shall see assets in case you want to add images in your application later on, in case you need to add fonts or font family. Accordingly, we shall actually also look into that. Yeah, so apparently what you're seeing in blue, they're just comments. Yeah. So that's pubspec.yaml. Yeah, initially. So those are usually the folders and files we usually tamper with accordingly. So let's get back to our code. Let's get back to business. Yeah. We said we create an app. And we give it a class. So that class is responsible to either extend a stateless widget or a stateful widget. And we have explained that a stateless widget is that widget that actually usually returns constant widgets that are not actually going to be changing over time, which are not dynamic. But for a stateful widget, it's actually responsible for having dynamic content on its page. Yeah, so I'll go back and run my app here. I minimized it here. So this is my application, and it's already running. Yeah, so we said we have a material app that returns a scaffold, right, for our application, because in run app we are running the first initial application for a stateless widget. Sorry, we are running the first initial widget, which extends a stateless widget and has a build method which is responsible for running a material app, and a material app is having a home scaffold. Then a scaffold we can call in for a body. Now, because this entire white spacing is for a scaffold, then a scaffold is responsible for calling a body, as I indicated here. Then a body can contain different widgets as you may want. Okay, so I'll minimize this, and not to repeat myself, I'll try to elaborate this more. So we have a body, and a body can take in a widget, let's say a text widget. So a text widget is responsible for taking in a string value, so a string value given by data as a placeholder. That's why we have data here. So we're saying for a string value, as we saw in our previous tutorials for creating variables, a string takes in a quotation. So we shall say something here, maybe say I'll say welcome. When I type welcome, we are seeing that welcome is here, but it's actually totally to the top left of my application. Yeah, so in my body I'm having content, I'm having a text widget, but it's actually aligned in the top left of my application. So if I need to center this up, I can actually create or introduce another widget which is called a center widget, and I center my body wherever I really want in the center. So to do that, I put my cursor on the widget that I want to wrap or actually change its alignment. Then I go to quick fix. So when I go to quick fix, this bulb here, then I click it, it will show a quick fix assigning me different different warnings, and maybe how I can actually fix them to add a constant, because maybe it is thinking that this text is going to be a constant. I don't need to be changing it over and over again. So if I make it constant, when I debug my application once again, it will not go through the build context of actually having to build that widget again. It will be constant and it will not be changing over time. So it only needs one time build, and it will be rebuilt automatically, not taking a lot of time. So usually why we use constants, usually it's because we don't need our application to tend long while rebuilding. Why? Because if you have a lot of widgets and they're all dynamic, that's how slow your application will be, in case that is the device you've actually installed on it is actually kind of having a less RAM, or it's actually weak. But in case you make constant widgets, sometimes, in case you actually understand that this text widget is not going to be changing over time, you can actually assign it a constant. Okay, which is okay. And in case it's going to be changing over time, you don't need to put a constant to it. Yeah, otherwise let us first continue without putting constants, because I don't need to assign any constant. So I'll come here and wrap this widget. When I wrap this widget, it's going to be made a child of another parent widget. Okay, so they're telling me that this widget I want to create here, it's having a child within it, and it's having a text widget which I created previously. So this widget I'm creating, sorry, Ctrl Z, this widget that I've created, I'm going to make it a center widget, just like that. So there I'm making my body in the center. So we can wrap our widgets into other widgets. As I said previously, that we're having a widget within a widget within a widget. So this can be a big container, and I'm having a text within it. So this can be a child of this, this can be a child of this, this can be a child of this, this can be a child of this. Meanwhile, email is a child of this blue, and password is also a child of this blue container. You understand? As sign in is also a child of this blue container. Meanwhile, also register text widget is also a child of this blue container, just like that. While the no account is also a child of this yellow container. So just like that. So we are dealing with widgets within a widget within a widget. So let us go back to our code again. I'll try to remove these warning lines because I don't need them. So I'll remove them like that. I don't want them to confuse you. Okay. Something else I want to explain. We close widgets with that. And to highlight more, all widgets start with a capital letter and assigned with these kinds of bracket, and we close them like that. And like if we are returning and like if we are returning a widget, we assign it brackets. Yeah, it has these brackets, but we close it with that. Yeah. But if it's a normal widget and we have called it elsewhere, we assign it normal brackets and we close it with a comma. Yeah. So that's why when I created a center widget, it's having a closure of a comma at the end. And when I gave it a child, when I extended this text widget within a center widget, you create a child, and this child is that text widget. Then this text widget is having these normal brackets, and remember it's a string, it accepts a string inside, type string. Then I'm also closing it with a comma at the end. Yeah, in case I need to put down content, I'll have to close my widgets with a comma at the end. Unlike if I'm returning a widget, I have to end or close it with a semicolon. An example is with a material app. I'll first cut this. With a material app. So with a material app, remember a material app is also a widget. Yeah. So a material app is a widget, and it also has normal brackets. But since that I'm returning it, I have to assign it with this, right? But inside it, I had a scaffold which is having a body. So I just have a home constructor. We actually have constructors, or if we don't comment this, we shall have an error. Constructors, I usually call them constructors. These start with a small letter. Now this starts with a small letter and end with that. And end with that. Yeah. So as I said, we have a material app that has a constructor home. Then home calls for a scaffold widget. So constructors are responsible for calling for a widget. So a constructor home calls for a scaffold widget. Then a scaffold widget goes in a body, as I illustrated here. So a material app has a home constructor, then this constructor is responsible for calling a scaffold. This is capital scaffold. Then it calls in a body, and a body calls in another widget called maybe containers. Okay. So we shall minimize that and go back to our code. We're having a scaffold, body, and that. Okay. So let us go to our screen. We are seeing that we're having the text widget, welcome, and it's well centered. So that's how we can actually center it. Otherwise, in case you don't want to wrap it, people don't want to use that shortcut, which is so very much easier. Someone will say center widget, then within the center I'll give a child, then a child, I'll give a text widget, and I'll say this is a string, welcome to our app. So it's still the same thing. If you don't want to wrap it, you can just write it, you understand? But meanwhile, if you just need to center it, you just come to quick fix, then wrap with center, you understand? And that's it. Yeah, so it's just quick, just like that. Yeah. So that's how we center widgets. We just wrap it. Then something else that I want to maybe talk about, within a scaffold, you can always have quite many more widgets we can actually create. We can create a bars, we can create a floating action button, we can have okay, let's look at that. So within a scaffold, in case you want to see different constructors or different widgets that can actually be used within a specific widget, what we do, you come and place your cursor here and you actually hover around it. Then you'll have a series of methods or constructors or widgets or functions that can actually be used within that specific widget. So when I hover around my scaffold, I'm seeing that I'm having a key. I can use a key here. I can use preferred size widget, which is a bar. Then I can have a body. We already used a body constructor here, right? So within a scaffold, I can use another widget. Floating action button it's of a type widget. Then I'm having a floating action button location. Okay, I can also use this. Then I can have a list within this. Then I can have a drawer for a menu, something like that. Then end drawer for the right side. So a lot. So in Flutter, the other thing is that in case you actually forget which widgets fall in which specific widgets, or where can I use these widgets, or in case you kindly forget, yeah, you can actually just hover on your widget you created and you get to know what can be used, how can you modify, how can you add more widgets within, and what is required. Yeah, just like that. Just like for center, I'm saying that I can use a double width factor, I can use a double height factor, I can use a child. Understand? Yeah. So they're saying for the center, it creates a widget that centers its child. What do we mean by child? Okay, we are going to be seeing a lot of child and children usually, because we have what we call, we're gonna introduce what we call let me put this boy here and maybe create oh, okay, bring to front. Okay, so so this is a child, and what do we mean by a child? A child takes in only one widget. Okay, in case you have a widget that creates a child, that means that that widget only takes in only one widget, only one single widget. So for a child, I think I'll comment down here. Child, oh, it's under comment. So I think I'll bring in that block line comment because I don't want to be commenting all the time. So I'll put here. So we have what we call a child. And we shall see what we call children. Children. Yeah. Initially for a child, this accepts only a single widget. Only a single widget. While children can accept multiple widgets. Okay. So we need to specify, and we need to actually understand where are we using multiple widgets, where can we apply multiple widgets, and where can we only apply one single widget. Just like when we are dealing with a scaffold, it has a body, so you can only have one body within a scaffold. You can't have multiple bodies within a scaffold, so it's only one, and this body only calls one single widget, you understand? So that single widget, it can have many multiple widgets later on, but as in for the body constructor, it calls only one widget apparently. Yeah. As for our text, it's single widget, yeah, just that it's not having a child, yeah, because its child is just within its parameters. Yeah, but to elaborate more about that is I'll go to an example here. I think I'll delete this and I'll call for this. Okay, this is an example for a sign up page. Yeah, we're having quite many widgets here. This is a widget. 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 This is a widget also. Yeah, this is a text widget with an icon widget, right? Then, or a checkbox is also a widget. And we have also this a widget and has a sign in text widget as well. Also, this is a widget. But how do we create maybe something like this? Because if we want to maybe give let's say we have a body called a centered child for a text. If we want to add more text here down, what do? We can't create another child within the center. No, we can't. So what do? We create a widget that allows multiple widgets to be created, and the widget that allows multiple widgets, I'll just say multiple widgets, and we shall give it to columns and rows. Then usually here I can give an example of containers, text widgets, icon widgets. What else is here? Buttons later on. Yeah. All center widgets as well. It's also a widget, by the way. Center widgets, something like that. So as we move on, we shall see that. So apparently we are going to be dealing a lot with multiple widgets. While within multiple widgets, then we can call single widget, and then a single widget can call one multiple widget, right? So we can call a widget that allows another multiple widgets. So just like that, because with Flutter, as I said, it's widgets within a widget within a widget within a widget, just like how you see this. Because if we have an example of this is kind of, I think, for a login screen, we're having a welcome back, we're having an email, having a password, we're having sign in, then we get stuff. So this instead of having one body as the other example where we saw welcome, right, we're having a column instead. So this is a full column where we're having its children within it. So we introduce children, as I said here, within columns or rows. And this is what you see here for already have an account, please sign in. This is a row. As you see this for an icon for email, then you're having a text email, this is in a row. But if we want a column, then this is in a column, then this sign up text field is in a column, also this is in a column, a column, a column, a column. All this is in a column, right? So, and maybe another replacement for a column can be a stack, accordingly to how you want to align your widgets, but we shall see a stack later on. Yeah. So let us first go back to our application, which is right here. Okay, so we're having welcome to our app and I explained if we need to see more widgets that can be aligned within a widget or can be used within a widget or constructors or functions, we hover on it, then we see we have used a body. I think we are going to go with app bar now. So with a scaffold, we can add an app bar. So an app bar constructor calls for app bar widget. That's why I'm starting with a capital letter. Then within it, I'll see what to call. An app bar calls for a key. That is for now safety in case I need to do it. Then we have another widget for a leading. We have a boolean in case a title. I think I'll use title here. So I'll call for title constructor. Then the title constructor can be anything, any other widget. So I'll call in for a text. Then I say how do we want to call our app? It's a Flutter lesson. Flutter lesson. So when I save, it's running a hot reload. Then we shall have an app bar displayed up here. In case we want to center our title, we can actually just wrap. For an app bar, we have two ways of how we can center it. So we can actually center it by using, oh sorry, you can use this quick fix, then you wrap it with center, or the shortest way of using quick fix on your keyboard, you press Ctrl full stop. Yeah, Ctrl full stop. Do I need to write it up here? No, I don't need to write it up here. You use Ctrl full stop. On Mac you use Command full stop. So when I press Command full stop, it will bring me this quick fix. Then I'll wrap it with center. And when I save, it is in the center. And that's the title well stated just like that. To change the background of the color and stuff, we shall be looking at that later. Yeah, not for now. Another way of how to center the title, I'll put a comma here so that I put these things down. So I'll comment this and I remove my title. Another way how to center the title is, sorry, let me just, okay, just first go to here. As it was, Flutter lesson. Another way how to send a title for an app bar, we are seeing within the app bar we're having do we have it over here? We're having a boolean for set a title. So a boolean is either a true or false value. So I'll say I'll say center title. And the title, then we shall make it true. So when I put it true, it is centered. Yeah, so within the app bar, we can actually send a title using wrapping the text widget or wrapping whatever widget we have actually put there within the center widget, or we can actually just call for a center constructor which calls for a true value because it's a boolean. Yeah, this is a boolean. Yeah, so that's done. So we can go ahead and maybe have a design of our first application. Okay, so remember the body, in case I need to put in more fields, I can't use a center widget only, which is going to actually call for one child. Accordingly, maybe in case its child is going to call for a widget which is allowing multiple widgets, say as a column. So what I need, in case I need more within my body, I'll call a column or a row according to how I want to align my widgets. So what I'll do, I'll remove this. I'll remove this. And instead of calling for a text widget, welcome to our app, I'll call for a column. So I'll call for a column, and they're saying for a column, create a vertical array of children. And an array is in a list, so it calls a vertical list of children, yeah, according to their to their alignment you give them. So we shall see different alignment for main axis alignment and cross axis alignment. We shall see all that, right? And it says that it's of a type list widget that calls for children, right? So inside here we shall call for children. As I set it up here, that children can be only used within multiple widgets for columns and rows. Then also list widgets. We shall see how to create a list view widgets, yeah, later on. So it has children, and we said within a list we use square brackets, so that's why the children is responsible for calling a list widget. So it's of a type a list widget, right? So we put in the required widgets. Maybe you can put in maybe our text we had initially, that we can put in multiple widgets as text. Then we say welcome to our app. Just like that. So we are seeing it is automatically put up, isn't it? So in case we want to center align it, we can actually also center, but we have different ways of centering or aligning content within a column and a row, where we saw main axis alignment or cross axis alignment. So we shall be seeing that as we move on. But apparently for a column we shall have a text, in case I need to put another text here. So I can put a series of widgets within here. Maybe say data, then I call for another one. Sorry for that. We can put in another one, then we can put in another one. And these are infinite widgets, so we can assign them widgets accordingly. Yeah. If we prefer using a constant, if I make it a constant, that means I'm saying that please, this widget is not going to be having changing values over time, isn't it? So if I make them a constant, once they go through the build function, we don't need to rebuild them the next time we're actually going to run up our application, yeah, because they're already being ran through the build method, the very initial time under the constant. But once I don't want to do that, I can just remove it. Or I'll still have the warnings. Okay, let's proceed. So as I told you, we close a widget with this. Once you leave one widget not closed, they'll prompt you to have an error, expected to find a comma, because you can't put any widget below it before you closing the previous widget up there. So once we save, we shall have a series of widgets created. That's a happy coding. Widgets. Maybe thanks. Okay, it's just content. So that means we can align content below. And in case we want to align content downwards, then we can create a row instead. Okay, so instead of using a column, we can create a row. So there's not much difference from a column and a row, but alignment is the one which actually matters. So instead of using a column, I can call it a row. So once I call it a row and I save, we shall see that all this shall be aligned in the horizontal way, not a vertical way. Understand? And that's it. Just that we don't have a spacing in between, we are going to actually see how to do that. Yeah. And we are going to introduce what we call containers and sized boxes. Yeah. So I'll go back to a column, because I want to put content down, not in horizontal, and the easiest way we can use is I'll put back this to a column, and when I save, if I need to put maybe a row down here under the children for a column, I'll just have to say I'm putting a row, because it's also a widget, right? I'm putting a row, and I'm tired of these warning lines. I think I'll just have to put neglect for all. So I'll put a row down. So this is just a comment. Then I'll call for a row, because I need to put it inside these columns, because the column is the body of the scaffold. Yeah. So whatever is here, it's the body overtaking it's the column overtaking the body of my scaffold. So whatever I put here is going to be under that column. Okay. So I'll call for a row. I'll call for a row. A row, I said it calls children. So inside this children, I can align different widgets. So I can call for a text widget, and I say this is a row. This is a row. Once I save, I have this is a row, but in case I need to maybe assign another widget down here, I'll say within my children, I'll have another text. It's a row. Okay. I have less things to think about. I'll say thanks. So I'll say this is a row, thanks. So this content is not going downwards, but it's going in a horizontal format. Okay, the text direction is horizontal. Yeah, that's why when I come to a row, we having creates a horizontal array of children, while a column creates a vertical array of children. So that's the difference between a row and a column. So in case I need to put another row below this, because this is a column, I'll assign it down here. So when I'm done using this row, I'll have to put a comma here, then I assign another text widget maybe. And not a text for this time, but I want to introduce what we call a container. So we can have a container, and the same a container is that that creates a widget that combines common painting, positioning, and sizing widgets, the height and values, blah blah blah. Yeah. So we try to look through what it has. It has a key, also a padding, alignment of its content. Then it has width and height. Okay. So we can actually assign a container and we can give it a width and height. This is a container. It can have a width, it can have a height, and it can have padding at the same time. Then we can have the content inside it, and that's the child for it, because a container only carries one widget. Yeah, for a container only carries one widget. This is containers. This only accepts one child widget. Yeah, so we can't assign more widgets within a container, just how we saw for columns and rows, right? But for a container can only accept one widget, while a column and row and maybe list view widgets can actually have a series of list of widgets, right, as we saw. Yeah, so to highlight more on that, that means that a container can actually have a height, and we can give it a height 100 maybe, and we can give it a width still 100. We save. Yeah, but initially we are actually not seeing our container displayed. Why? Because it's not having a color, because the default color for a container is white or transparent actually. So we shall have color constructor, then we call, this is how we assign color. We call the color constructor, then it calls in for colors dot red. Okay, let me use right colors dot red. So we have a container. Yeah, my content in the body could not be actually aligned well, but we want to actually get the concept, then we can actually go into building a good fancy apps later on. Yeah, so within my column, remember I'm in the column, right? So I can put in more containers if I need. Wow, that's so nice. So I can copy up this. I don't want to write it again. Then I put, this is a second container. This is second green container. I'll make the below one green. Then I think I'll make this first container, first red container. So those are just comments. So I'll paste it over there. Then I'll change the color to green to my preference. When I save, pop, we're there. Okay, so I want to explain about containers as well, in case we need to put something within a container. How do we deal with that? Yeah, remember we have given it color, we've given it width and height. What else can we give it? We can give it a child. Okay, we can give a container child. So a child can actually come in maybe down here, and a child can now be something else. Can be another widget that calls in multiple widgets. Let's say a child can be anything, any other widget, maybe an icon, maybe a text widget, maybe a column, maybe a row. Then we can put it within the body of the container. So I can assign it text widget, pop, like that, accept the string, then I'll say this is a green container. So when I save, that is green, and I'm gonna make this red. Call for another text. I'm gonna make this red. Okay. Yeah, something like that. I don't know whether they're quite visible enough, but we shall try to increase our containers, I think. Let me make this the height 200. I make this I'll make it 200 as well. I'll make also this one 200 or the same size. Also this 200. So I'll save. I'll have them quite big enough so that we can actually see well. Okay. So initially, why am I having content to the top left? So that is the default alignment of my alignment within a container. But if we want to center this child, we can actually just wrap, as we said, we can just get to the text widget, then we wrap it to the center, pop, ready in the center. Also, meanwhile, this, we can just wrap it with center, pop, just like that. So we're good to go. But how about in case we have content and we actually not interested in putting in the center? What happens? You understand? What happens within a container? We use what we call padding. Okay, we use what we call padding, and let's say we put this back on the save. They go back to the top left. In case I need to actually extend a little bit from the margin before I actually execute this widget for a green text widget, right? So what do I need to do? I use what we call padding. So we had an example here. Within a container, we have a container yellow, right? We have its height, we have its width, then we have its padding. So padding is that spacing from the margin to the child, to the child of the parent widget. Okay, so this spacing we have here between the outside container and the blue container, this is what we call padding. So that's the spacing in between. Yeah. So usually we use that for spacing between widgets, or we can use what we call a sized box. So I'm gonna be maybe talking about that. So if we're dealing with the padding inside a widget, within the container, not outside a widget, we put the padding edge instance inside the container widget, and we wrap the child widget to a padding. So we shall wrap with padding. When I say okay, we're seeing that green text widget is actually extending itself from the margins, from the left margin, from the top, yeah, from down, also from right as well. Just that we actually not physically seeing that because we're having a small content. But what do we mean by edge instance? Yeah, so they're saying this creates instance where all the offsets are value. Okay, that is not explaining it to you so well, but having a typical 8 pixel margin on all sides. Maybe this one, it's having that we're having 8 pixels margin on all sides, yeah. So we're having 8 pixels here, 8 pixels up, 8 pixels from the right, 8 pixels from the bottom as well, yeah. And this is edge instance dot all. We have different edge insets for padding. So within padding, we can have edge instance dot all. We can use from left, top, right, bottom. Then we can have padding edge insets from view padding. Then we can have only. Maybe if you want to specify from the left only, from the right only, from the top only, from the bottom only. Then we also have symmetric. Maybe let's say we want to use only. So if I need padding from only the left, but I'm keeping the top a constant, right? So I'll say only. So when I have on only, if I want to see what is in only, it has a double value. You can take in decimals. Remember when we talked about double? That's a use of programming ethics. Yeah, so we have a double can contain decimals. Let's say left, so we can have left constructor. Then I'll say 10. So if I say I'm having padding, within the padding widget, I'm having an edge insert for type padding, then I'm saying only from the left, give it 10 pixels. So when I save, it's only having a spacing from the margin of the left, but it's keeping the respect of the top and the right and bottom, because I'm restricting it from the left only, and it's of a type double. If I need to also restrict it from the bottom or top, I just come here and say top, also give it maybe 20. You see it going down because this is 10, it's a bit bigger than 20. You see the spacing from here to here is bigger than from here to here, right? Yeah. So if I need to also add the right, then I need to do that. But then the other one we saw was assigning from dot. This is left, top, right, bottom. So this one gives you all of them, right? So, but here you don't need to assign a constructor for it. Then I'll say 2, maybe I'll say 5, then from top I need 3, then from the right I need maybe 8, from the bottom I need maybe 3, and after that I'll close, just like that. Understand? So the first one takes in the index for left, then the second one takes in the index for top, right? Then the other one takes in the right and the bottom respectively. So just like that. So it's accordingly to what specific padding you need. You can try out different of them, but me, I'll say all, because I want I want to have a padding on all sides. So in case I'm writing text, if I reach the right side, it won't actually reach the margin. Let's say, I'll give it an example. If I write a series of content, so if it reaches the right margin, it's having a respect of 8, because I'm saying that I'm keeping the respect of 8 pixels from all sides. You understand? And that's it. So I'm having 8 pixels margin on all sides. That's it. Then if we need to center it, I think you know how we can actually center that, isn't it? That's not so hard. That is only just wrapping the text widget into a center. Okay, and likewise for red, which is up there, in case I need to maybe align it in the way I really want, we can actually also use padding in case we don't want it to be starting from the very initial margins. Okay, so this is having padding within the container. How about if we need padding around the container? Because I might have a series of widgets attached together, just like how we have red and we have a green container, but we don't have a spacing in between here. So how do I do that? And here we shall introduce what we call a sized box. A sized box. So in between, because I'm in a column, right? Because I'm in a column, if I want to have a spacing in between here, it's like creating a container, a blank container, but I give it a height. So that height is actually spacing between the two. I'll illustrate it here. So in case I'm having 2 of these, I'll copy them and paste them somewhere, just like this. I'll give this, yeah. Oh, okay. Because I'm having 2 containers, so in case I want to create that small white spacing in between there, if I don't need them to be attached just like that, so to create them, that means I'm having a small height in between them, isn't it? So what we usually do for that, we call it Control C, Control V. I need this arrow here. I need what we call a sized box. A sized box with a specific height. So this is how we deal with that white spacing if we are actually dealing with a column. Because if I want to have a spacing in between, here, that means for this box that is going to be here, I'll give it a height so that I push this up and I push this down. It's like having widgets of text. Welcome to our app, happy coding, widgets. If I need a spacing in between here, between happy coding and widgets, that means I have to create an invisible height just in between these, right? And that's it. For a row, it's different, because for a row we create a width so that we can separate the word row with thanks. And that's what we're going to do here. For column, we introduce white space, and for the white space we use a sized box. So a sized box can take in a height and a width and a child in case you want to use it, because it's a sized box actually is an it's just like a container actually. Yeah, so some people can use them as a container and give them even color, you understand, but usually I prefer using them for having this separation. So I'll give it a height maybe 10. So I move this just like that. So you see my green container is just extended a little bit down. Okay, a little bit down, and that's it. In case I need to add more height, 43, just like that. So you give the height accordingly. But if I intend to give it width instead, let's take it back. We give it a width, maybe say 10. We shall see nothing happens, because our size box, which is here, if I give it a width, it's actually going to space content within a horizontal way, right? Or a horizontal axis, right? But I need to give it a height so that I give a spacing in between a column in a vertical way, because height is responsible for vertical. Understand? So height is that length within a height, and width is that spacing between a horizontal format. Okay, so I hope that is explained, and then we shall actually go into creating in our next lesson. I think we're actually going to go in how we can actually align columns, how we can actually align rows, and maybe plus more widgets we shall actually introduce. So thanks for watching, and catch up in the next lesson.